Good afternoon, radio stations. The press briefing for today will start shortly, so please stand by. Radio stations, please stand by. We'll start in 60 seconds. 30 seconds, we will commence the press briefing. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon to the citizens and residents of Dominica, and of course to our friends and families who are residing in the diaspora, to the media present. I want to say good day to all of us. I just need to make some very short statements, or very short statement with some points. First of all, I would like to welcome the statement made by the leader of the opposition. Though it's a bit late, but nonetheless, the leader of the opposition has started to be constructive in his engagement and utterances. Though I recognize in his statement he still wanted to be political in his expressions. But just to say to the general public that about 90% of what the leader of the opposition suggested or recommended in the public domain because he has not written to me directly. He made it in the public domain. Have been under consideration by the government and costed. So, for example, he suggested that the government should procure a large quantity of building materials to augment what is available at the commercial outlets. This is a matter that was under consideration by the government since late November, and it was delayed by the government because it has always been the government's expression that it does not want to compete with the private sector or displace the private sector in any way. So we're giving the private sector an opportunity to demonstrate it has the capacity to bring in the large volume of building material and roofing material needed in the country to facilitate the expeditious renovations of many of our homes in Dominica. But in our analysis and investigation, recognize that the private sector will not have the capacity as yet to bring the quantities, and therefore the government in the first week of January placed an order of about 17 million EC dollars to bring in an extensive consignment of building materials, from screws to galvanized, to assist with the covering and renovation of hundreds of homes across Dominica. We have sent the first payment, and the supplier that is out of Jamaica has given us a payment schedule, so we're not paying everything up front. He has given us a 6 months period to pay him, or to pay the supplier, to pay them the amount of monies. So the first payment is about $5 million that has been sent to the firm in Jamaica, the company in Jamaica, and the first shipment I've been advised by the Ministry of Housing will land on Dominica on the 29th of January. So the first shipment of the building materials will arrive in Dominica on the 29th, and we will move with assisting many families and individuals with building materials to fix their homes. Some of those materials will also be used for public buildings. So there's some police stations that we have to fix. There's some health centers we have to fix. There's some public administration buildings that we have to cover, and to ensure that the public servants can get back into their homes. But one can recognize one of the hold-up of the program is the unavailability of adequate supply of building materials in Dominica. People are bringing in, but before it gets there, it has been purchased. They have been purchased by the citizens of our country. I wish to make the following announcements to the public on decisions taken by the Cabinet of Ministers. One, we have discussed and we have approved, and I will write formally to the Leader of the Opposition, I'll do so today, for the creation of a national bipartisan post-Maria consultative body. And that consultative body will have the ratification of the Parliament by a motion to ensure the seriousness to which the government is proposing it, the Parliament will accept and carry out its functions in that manner. The bipartisan group will be made up of 5 people, 5 members of Parliament, 3 on the government side, and 2 from the opposition. And of course, it is the Parliament who will have the final approval and ratification of those names. Obviously, the leaders of both sides will submit names to the Parliament, and by a motion, those names will be approved. They'll be clear and distinct terms of references for this body in respect to the overall reconstruction and rebuilding of Dominica. The second announcement I wish to make is that the Cabinet has taken a decision, as I indicated last year in December, that we will have a national consultation on the rebuilding post-Hurricane Maria. So we shall convene what is termed a National Rebuild and Economic Partnership Consultation. And that consultation will take place on the 19th of February 2018, so that will allow us to Those of you who will be in Carnival, those of us who have to go for Ashes on Wednesday will get that, and Monday morning we will have the consultation. And what better time to have it in the time of Lent, where there'll be moderation, there'll be get a sense of discipline and soberness and responsibility and a rebirth of our souls and so forth. So it's a good time to have such a national consultation of all parties, and this would include all stakeholders, the NGOs, the youth groups, sporting organizations, Dominica Association of local government authorities, leaders of political parties, the churches, the farmers groups, the private sectors, the wide cross-section of society, where we'll all come together and we'll discuss and share ideas and experiences and suggestions on how best to go about approaching the rebuilding of Dominica. Obviously, there will be a presentation by the government, and there'll be submissions made by the various stakeholders. And that national consultation shall be chaired by the Prime Minister, and it will be attended by all ministers of government. The other point I would like to make, I think, is point number 3, is that the Cabinet has taken a decision to create 1,100 jobs to engage those made redundant and displaced by Hurricane Maria. And these jobs will be for skilled and unskilled individuals. Because it is the government's view, while we'll be building homes, putting roofs back on our heads, building roads, building river defenses, building schools, we should not lose sight of the human aspect of development. And therefore, we need to ensure that we can maintain the sanity and the dignity of our citizens. Now, this will be a costly exercise, but in our view, it will be an investment that is worthwhile, because the cost of repairing any potential damage will be more significant to the country. And in the process, we want to ensure that men in particular can maintain their respect and rightful place in their household as head of the household. Because if they're unable to bring in a pay packet at the end of the month, they may lose that position, a position that has been given to them by God. It is clear in the Bible. But it must not only be in name, it must be in practice. And therefore, if you're unable to bring a paycheck as a husband or a boyfriend to your girlfriend or to your wife, then you have a problem. And so while it may sound like a laughing matter, it's a serious matter. And in very clear reflection from the government standpoint, in consultation with various individuals, we have decided to create this 1,100 jobs, paid for by the government of Dominica, with funds from the CBI, to engage people who have been displaced. Because these people still have their mortgages. These people still have to eat. These people still have to send their children to school. And on top of that, they still have to find monies to fix their homes that have been destroyed by the hurricane. And for me, in all of the decisions we have taken in recent time, for me, this is one of the most important decisions the government has taken. So I want to thank my colleagues for approving the paper brought by the Prime Minister for this. And the Cabinet Secretary will provide details on Monday to the public on how you can go about applying, how you can go about registering. We will create a unit that will be responsible for managing this. This will be separate and distinct from the National Employment Program. So it will be separate and distinct from the National Employment Program. There will be a new administration to oversee it. We've identified somebody who will coordinate this for us, and we'll put in a team of public servants to oversee its administration. The Cabinet has indicated that this program should begin on the 1st of March, 2018. So please, those of you who will be interested, listen up on Monday. The CAPSEC will come back here to give a public presentation on the details, where you would register. We'll set up a place where people can go and be comfortably seated and fill the forms right there and then. The forms will be online, so that you can download it yourself and fill it in and deposit it where the capsec will tell you. The other point I would like to point, the other decision the Cabinet took, the Cabinet has taken a decision to create an autonomous, rapid response, social recovery agency. Now, there's a lot of words. Let me repeat it there. An autonomous, rapid response, social recovery agency. And that agency will replace the public support program, or what is popularly known as the Red Clinic. But it will continue to have, in large measure, the mandates of the public support program. And the rationale behind this is that in the aftermath of a massive storm like this, you will have social dislocation in a country, irrespective of how small or large the country is, but particularly in small countries. And therefore, our response as a government and as a people in a country to the needs, the urgent needs of our citizens, must be rapid. It cannot get bogged down in bureaucracy. People should not come to us today and we tell them come next week, and when they come next week, it's not available, and they tell us next week, and something that the person needed today, the 17th of February, they receive on the 1st of March. And it's of no consequence to the person, because the person needing it on the 17th. And sometimes this is life or death situations. Somebody's house, that roof that's leaking, cannot wait forever, because the water is falling directly in the person's bed. The person has small children. So to demystify the public support program, this will be an autonomous body. It will be a creature of the Parliament. So not only an executive decision, it will become a creature of the Parliament. It will have its board, it will have its management structure. It will receive its funds from the Parliament, voted by the Parliament. It will be audited by the Director of Audit. It will be answerable to the Parliament. So it will follow all of the financial protocols like any other statutory entity in the country. And I have mandated that this entity shall come into effect on the 15th of March. I did not watch to see whether the 15th is Sunday or Monday, but I want it on the 15th of March, which means that we have to go to Parliament before then to cause it to happen. People shouldn't be coming to us back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth on simple matters. And some of these matters are $300 or $500 to buy stuff, medication. Somebody who is diabetic cannot wait if the insulin is finishing this afternoon. So sometimes these are the things that frustrates me in the public service, when things take too long to happen, and when we can make it happen much quicker than it should be happening. So we'll create this autonomous body, and the board and the executive director and the staff will make those determinations and be more rapid and so forth. And if when we have it, because sometimes you have these entities and people become proconsuls and viceroys. They think they've been sent by some superpower to superimpose themselves on the state and on the people. You see, some people, once you get in a position, they forget where they came from, So this is what the government will put in place March 15, 2018. The other decision the Cabinet took is to allocate $7.5 million to the Ministry of Housing that will assist with the repairs and providing assistance to cover people's homes across the country. That those funds are available to the Ministry of Housing. When necessary, the funds to help citizens and residents in the various communities will be transferred to the village councils to assist with the efficiency of the assistance reaching the people, because we want to ensure before the dawn of the next hurricane season, we all have a roof over our head. And that's the intention of the government. And so we will utilize every and all mechanisms that is efficient and effective in the execution of that responsibility. And I've mandated the Ministry of Housing that we need to start this program as early as Tuesday. So money should start going to the councils as early as Tuesday. From my constituency, I have all of the names of people who require fixing their homes. I have the estimates, I have the labor, I have the invoices. So I don't see why the Ministry of Housing should not have the monies in the village council by Tuesday for the people of Penville, Vickers, and Tebow. Minister Blackmore has a very thick list, just thick like that, of names of people in his constituency. His constituency is very large, you know. He always reminds us of that. So those funds will be dealt with, and it'll be efficient. There are no weeks in that Ministry of Housing it should take. And I've said to them, bring in a special team that has no other responsibilities but to review the estimates, review the invoices, and take it forward. Make sure planning is involved in supervising the roofs. We have engineers, Safote, who is assisting us. They'll be also involved in ensuring that they go to homes and inspect those homes, that they're done properly, and it meets the specifications of the planning authority. Okay. The other announcement I'd like to make is that, as we told you last year, we had contracted the original firm to assist us in the cleanup of the country after the hurricane. The equipment will arrive on the country today. It's a massive fleet of equipment that will arrive. And their first order of business is to descend on the rivers in Dominica. Yeah. There's too many rivers that are posing serious danger to lives and properties across Dominica. The Rosa River, the people on the riverbank and apartments and along the river street cannot sleep at night, even when it's drizzling. You know, I visited Coptol, for example, at the back where my friend Mason lives. Mason's porches are hanging over the river, where my friend Dr. Dublin and others live. And if we do not do something for them there, urgently, all of his investments people have there will be washed away. Because it was affected by Erica, and it was also affected dramatically by Maria. So the whole of Coptol runs the risk of being affected if we do not bring in heavy-duty equipment there to manage the dredging of the river, redirect the flow of the water to mitigate against disasters. And also the Melville River, we have Pishley that continues to threaten the lives of the people down there. We have Castle Comfort. All the properties have been affected, Anchorage, Dive Dominica, Evergreen, by this. Courts have had to vacate this entire structure. So we'll be descending on the rivers of Dominica as a first order of business, literally from tomorrow morning. So we welcome this heavy equipment. Obviously, we all know the challenge we have in Dominica. We do not have sufficient equipment. One company had to bring in a few from St. Vincent last year to assist us. But a lot of these people who have equipment are engaged in their private work, and you cannot get equipment as you want it. And time is of the essence. You know, this is why I'm saying, we in Dominica, we must stop fooling ourselves. The government, all of us in Dominica must stop fooling ourselves that we have all of the human resources and the skills and the talents to respond to this disaster. The quicker we can get up as a citizen and recognize that we need help, and any and all help we can get, it's better for us. But some people may want to look at contracts, and they may have contracts for 2 years, but we do not have 2 years for some things. We do not have 2 years to dredge the Rosa River. We do not have 2 years to cover people's roofs. We do not have 2 years to build, to design, to cost, and to build a number of the edge and the retaining walls for the edge failures across Dominica. So we have to continue to be in an emergency mode for the foreseeable future. So this is why when I express my anxieties and my frustrations, people mustn't take this thing personally. Because at the end of the day, ultimate responsibility resides with the Prime Minister. I can't blame anybody else, But everybody else should say it's on the Prime Minister's desk. He's waiting for the Prime Minister's signature. So most times they lie, It's not on my desk. I haven't seen it, But I know how the system works and so on. I don't take it personally, But so this large fleet of equipment will land today in Dominica, and the idea is to get them to the rivers immediately. And my only disappointment in that is that we started now, but there were some issues of transportation, because it's difficult to get transportation of this fleet and get a special barge to bring this and the size of the barge and so on. But thank God it is here, and thank God we can descend on the rivers tomorrow. The final point I would like to make is in respect to agriculture and the grants that we have promised the farmers. I want to say, and the PS is there, Dr. Thomas, acting PS, that I think finally we have done all what we have to do. The last 2 documents were approved. The final framework, and I think the other one has to do with the agreement with the aid bank, because we'll be utilizing the aid bank as a medium to pay all the checks. And if you realize what we're seeking to do in the government system, because the government itself has to be self-critic, recognize that some things take too long, and some things can get lost in the bureaucracy. And we did not create the bureaucracy, we inherited it. And in many instances in the public service, you have one person having many, many responsibilities. So every opportunity we get to utilize any agency of the state to facilitate the government outreach programs, will do so. And in respect to the grants to the farmers, we have recognized that the aid bank would be better disposed to facilitate the payments of the grants to the farmers in a quicker time frame than us. They have the staff, they have the structure, and they have the ability. Okay? So we enter in the aid bank, we'll be giving them a check for their troubles, some $56,000. Though I was wondering whether the aid bank could not give it to us, so an additional 20 farmers could benefit, but I'm not sure, you have high authorities at the aid bank, I'm not sure they listen to the Prime Minister. But so we'll be, and I have mandated that the agreement with the aid bank be signed tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And there shall be no excuses why it should be signed tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So that we can get the checks to the farmers this month. Right, PS? Yes. This month. PS is shaking his head and saying, yes, sir, this month. I promise you this month. 900 farmers in Dominica will receive $10,000. So 900 farmers will receive $10,000, and 3,032 farmers will receive $3,000 each. So 9,000 farmers will receive $10,000 each. So 900 farmers will receive $10,000 each, and 3,032 farmers will receive $3,000 each. In Eastern Caribbean currency, this is a lot of money. And my hope and prayer is that the farmers will utilize the money to invest on their farms. Okay? Because money these days are not easy to come by. So we are, and I would like to place on public record our gratitude to the leadership and the management of the World Bank. Have been exceptional in the efforts in helping us through this process. They've been very diligent, they've been very helpful. The guidance was well received and always well appreciated. So I have publicly criticized the World Bank from time to time. And if they have done something that is worth recognition, and applause, I must also be transparent enough to do so. And therefore, I am placing on public record our profound gratitude to the World Bank for the exceptional support and guidance in this regard. And of course, they'll be providing the financing for the sums to us. There are 540 registered farmers who, based on the definition, are called subsistence farmers. So therefore, they do not meet the requirements to be a small farmer or commercial farmer. But the government, recognizing the importance of food security and the importance of us growing what we eat, especially in a time when our diet has been dramatically altered, it's important for us to promote subsistence farming. And so I have not said so to the cabinet, but I am taking a decision. Neither have I said so to the Minister of Agriculture, but we will provide those who have been registered as subsistence farmers with $1,000 each. That will assist them in the purchase of the seedlings, and the inputs, whether it's organic or otherwise, so that they can grow and eat. And some of these very same people sell these things to the markets on a Saturday, and they make a daily bread out of that. Because with 2 or 3 galtas being in your home and so on, you can make a lot of money with lettuce. You understand? A few seasoning peppers, celery and cinnamon. You go across the country. Even my own village in Penville, the little backyard gardening taking place, and people do go to the markets with these things. In Mount Prosper, in particular, too, you have all those things taking place. In Bellevue and many communities across Dominica. But those 540 farmers, and there may very well be more, who are not small farmers or not commercial farmers based on the definition agreed between ourselves and the World Bank. But who are nonetheless farmers and who largely rely on that subsistence farming for their daily bread. So we'll be providing them with $1,000. But that will be separate and distinct from the arrangement which we have with the World Bank. So the government of Dominica, with its own resources, will make that available to the Ministry of Agriculture. We'll pass it on to the farmer. So we may very well use the aid bank itself to assist us with that. But that's separate and distinct from the arrangement which we have with the World Bank. I want to place on public record, in respect to this particular program, my gratitude to some people. To the Minister for Agriculture, also to Dr. McIntyre, the Minister for Economic Development, the Financial Secretary, Dr. Thomas, who is the Acting Permanent Secretary, Mr. Kervin Stevenson, Mr. Reggie Sevra, Mr. Colin Bully, and Mr. Ricky Brumant. These people work diligently to go through the process of preparing all of the documentation, reviewing the documents, advising, working with no office space, never complain. And these processes are tedious. People think it's a straightforward matter. These are tedious processes. Receiving 4,472 applications that you have to go through every one to ensure that nobody who applies is left out of the process. That if somebody is a commercial farmer, he shouldn't be captured into a small farmer. So it is tedious work. But out of all these people I've mentioned, I want to single out 2 people, Mr. Kervin Stevenson and Mr. Colin Bully. And I have singled them out because these are 2 Dominicans who were not called. They came forward and said, look, we have been hit by this hurricane. I have certain skills. Are you prepared to use them? They have not asked us for $1. Mr. Kervin Stevenson has no office. He has to share an office with Reggie Sevra. And when Reggie Sevra is not available, he's outside. Mr. Colin Bully, who's been retired many years ago, but who has an exceptional love for this country. And we have been able to learn from his experience draw from his experience, and to formulate a number of very creative policies on agriculture going forward post-Maria. And I think if we adopt that kind of approach by these two people I mentioned, Mr. Stevenson and Mr. Colin Bully, people who have skills, we can talk about remuneration later on, but let's start the work. You understand? So what I have said to the Minister of Agriculture, the Minister and the Cabinet, is that we will need to use these two gentlemen in a more formal way to continue providing guidance and leadership to the whole process of the revitalization of the agricultural sector. So I really want to thank them for this effort, because, like I said, they're not only working on this particular program. I've met with them a few times, and we're talking about broad policies which the Minister and the PS at some point, along with Mr. Bolden, Mr. Stevenson and others, will articulate to the country and so on. But there are a number of exciting new interventions that we will be implementing in agriculture. And I, as the Minister of Finance, I have made it very clear to the Minister of Agriculture that we will not compromise in our investing in agriculture. It is too critical. So the other point I would like to make, which came to my mind, is that we will have a team from the UK government here in Dominica next week. And that team will be coming to look at our water system in Dominica. As you know, the British government has been exceptionally helpful to us post Hurricane Maria. And they're sending a team here to do a fact-finding mission, on a fact-finding mission to look at our water system. Because one of the things I asked the British government for, and they've agreed to, is for them to send us experts in water resource management to advise us on building more resilient water systems. Because is there not a better way of having the water catchment area? Should we have it in the middle of the river? Because it shouldn't take those of us who have eyes to see that if it's going to be in the middle of the river is raging, it'll get washed away. So what can we do to build greater resilience so that in the case of a disaster, our water system will be more robust and we'll be able to get back our water much more quickly than it is. Another thing they're going to be looking at for us is areas where there are issues of elevation, and we have to use pumps to pump the water, which is costly. Can we not employ other technologies to remove the use of generators that adds to the expenses DOASCO is experiencing, and unable to pass it on to the consumers? Because the fact is, what we're paying for water in Dominica is not what it is costing DOASCO to bring it to your homes. And added to the huge bill to Dominic, then that can affect the operation of DOASCO. So they come in here on a fact-finding mission. They will give them all of the situation, they'll advise us, and then we have allocated the £10 million exclusively to the water resource management of Dominica. And the British have made an additional £15 million available to us. So if the reconstruction of the water systems is more than £10 million, then we'll decide whether we will take some from the 15 to add to that. But there's a commitment from the government to build more resilient water systems. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about building greater resilience, building the world's first climate resilient nation. Not that we will prevent destruction, but that we will not be in a worse off situation after the storm in terms of our rebounding from the storms. So they'll be here next week. They'll meet with the board, they'll meet with the management, they'll meet with the staff, they'll meet with the minister, the PS, and the financial secretary and other stakeholders to get a sense from them of their own observations so that we can move forward with that. And what I've also asked the British government is to have residents within DOASCO expertise to assist us with implementing that strategy. So I don't want the British just give us the money and no, let's be part of us. Let's hold our hands and let's walk through this process together. and also the EU. I want to thank the ambassador based in Barbados of the European Union, who's an exceptional lady. The EU has been very helpful. As you know, they made 11 million euros of commitment to us. Those funds are available. They sent the first tranche from the balance of the Erica that came to us a few weeks ago, and they are ready to transfer to us some 11 million euros as budgetary support, which means that we have the flexibility of using it the way we see if we want to use it. And another 2.6 million euros for matters relating to energy. I am now waiting advice from the NAO and the Financial Secretary on how we should utilize those monies, what sectors. I have suggested some ideas to them, but we want to look at it. But one thing we'll be looking to do with some of this 11 million euros, at least I won't be compromising on that one, because we had made mention about building some hurricane shelters in strategic locations in the country, especially in the most vulnerable areas like Grand in the south and the east. So we will be designing structures, and we're hoping to have those things before the next hurricane season. So these things can be built elsewhere and brought into the country. So it is not something that will take a very long time. And the idea with these shelters is to have a complete package where it can be multi-purpose structures. So it's not something that only used during a hurricane season. It can be used for weddings, it can be used for parties, it can be used for school classes in the evening, whatever it is. But when the hurricane season comes, then it will be exclusively for that purpose. So you will have large halls, you'll have showers, you'll have a large kitchen, you could cook, you'll have beds that will be in storeroom, you'll have things like generators there, or independent water tank system there, energy efficient system, so that if a hurricane is coming to Nicala in the east, in the Carnival territory, you can house 1,000 people inside there who can sleep comfortably and who can stay in there for a couple months and not disrupt school, for example. Likewise, you have one in the city. We've had to build homes for the people at grammar school, and to get them out, the 43 of them who remain in grammar school, and that's why there's been a delay in the opening of classes for third and first formers. These things will not happen in the future if we follow the strategy that the country is articulating. So I'm hoping to use some of the funds for that purpose. We may not be able to build all of them, but certainly in some of the most vulnerable areas, those things will be done. Grafon and Dailies, and just thinking of these places. Obviously, it will be part of a consultative process, and we'll make a final determination. The ODM will advise us on those locations based on their own independent assessment. So this will not be just a decision by the cabinet; it will be based on advice, as always. Okay, I will end here and allow you to ask me any question you wish. Thank you.
Good afternoon to you, Prime Minister Skerrit. Curtis Matthew from DBS Radio. About the funds for the farmers, I did not hear you mention things like certain standards that the farmers will have to meet, requirements, unlike what I heard from those from the Ministry of Commerce, where the small businesses would have to go through some sort of standards. Are there any standards that the farmers are going to have to meet?
Oh yeah, the Ministry of Agriculture had last year a very comprehensive presentation to the public on the protocols, the processes, who will be qualified, and the forms also articulated that. Okay, so we in fact following the same process as those in the small business. Now, as a farmer, you can register in the Ministry of Agriculture as a producer. So you have to be registered in the Ministry of Agriculture for this process and so forth. So they were properly articulated. They went from community, speaking to farmer groups, pointing out to them the qualifications. So this is why we came up with the categorizations, because you had to meet certain requirements to be a commercial farmer. You have to meet certain requirements to be a small farmer. You have to meet certain so if you do not meet those two categorizations, then you'll be considered a subsistence farmer. But in the program, we did not make room for subsistence farmers. And therefore, recognizing that, we have in a special program for this very important core of farmers who are really feeding a lot of families and a lot of communities. So they were properly articulated. I mean, as you know, the Ministry of Agriculture was very early in articulating that. Last year, the PS and the staff went through a very lengthy presentation, and so it was properly articulated and so forth. So yes, and it is something similar to what was articulated by the Ministry of Commerce in respect to the small business, because the funds that will be used for this small business also coming from the same donor, which is the World Bank, and therefore the protocols have to be the same, the procurement process will be the same, the registration process have to be the same, because the World Bank follows a particular rubric. Yeah.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon. Ron Deluk from the Chronicle newspaper.
But just to say, sorry, just to further qualify my response in respect to these funds must be used for what you say you're going to use them. And therefore, the extension officers and others will be coming to your farm to see what you have done with it. You would have to keep receipts of the expenditure. So this is not something where a man can run out to Dominica with his girlfriend to St. Martin to shop. I mean, we know things, we'll talk about it. So, but my respectful advice to the farmers, my friends, I mean, $10,000 to you today, there are many of us in Dominica who wouldn't mind getting that. You're getting it. It's been given to you to help you keep your job, to earn a living for yourself and for your family, and to maintain your dignity and your sanity. Do not go and squander it and then say what's Skerrit doing for Dominica. Ask what's Skerrit doing for Dominica. What's Skerrit doing for us. You get in this thing. And you know, and farmers must appreciate that, because the first decision I took as Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, was to ensure that our farmers are provided for, getting back on the fields. Okay? So let us appreciate this. So let us avoid the temptation of using it otherwise. I know things come up sometimes, and we are, we human beings and so forth, but recognize the purpose for it and the potential impact. Because I do farming, and if you have $10,000 now to invest in a farm, you can do a big farm. You can do a big farm, because a tin of carrot can give you thousands of dollars. One tin of cabbage seeds can give you about 8,000 cabbage seedlings. And now if you have cabbage, my brother, it's like gold. If you have vegetables now in Dominica and fruits, you're a king. Because we haven't eaten fruits in a long time. And many of us may be having our lunch on a very unbalanced diet. Okay? A lot of carbs. Okay? So I just want to say this thing. I don't want to disrespect anybody or appear to be, but just to caution us about this thing. Sorry, ma'am, please.
Okay. So you spoke about in excess of 1,000 provided for
1,100.
those. Yes, well,
1,100.
1,100 jobs will be provided for those made redundant. Now, this is distinct from the National Employment Program. Can you also speak to us in terms of the NEP and what is projected for 2018? Because
the NEP is here to stay, especially in this time. We are very committed to the NEP. The NEP is fulfilling the objectives. We have been able to save ourselves hundreds of thousands of dollars because of the NEP, cleaning the villages and the communities. Many businesses now are relying on the NEP to keep the business open, especially in this very difficult period. You understand? Because, in all fairness to the private sector, if you're not bring in anything, then your automatic decision is to cut expenditure. And anytime you're in a business and you're cutting expenditure, you first got your human resource bill, your wage bill. That's where people normally start. And it is not that the private sector person or the employer does not like you or doesn't love you or he doesn't love your country. At the end of the day, if he's not making money, he's not able to pay you. But many of them are seeking to get back into business. Some of them have gotten back into business, but albeit at a much lower scale than they were prior to Hurricane Maria. And the NEP has been sustaining them. So the government itself has been very helpful in this process. So the NEP has demonstrated. And I can say those who have criticized the NEP in the past, they may not say so publicly, but privately, I'm sure, when they pray to the good Lord, recognizing that had it not been for the NEP, life would have been much more difficult in the country. And because you've seen how many people have lost their jobs as a result of the hurricane. People have been laid off, people are made redundant, people may be working 1 day a week. So this is why we remain committed to the NEP. But we've always said that we do not tolerate ill discipline. And people must not believe that they can not come to work and get paid. And we have ensured that, and there are some who have been laid off because of that. You have to earn your bread. And this is not money that the government has, and it doesn't know what to do with it. There are many other uses for the funds that we expend on the NEP, and we just approved in the cabinet an additional $9 million yesterday to provide for January to June, is it, for the NEP, because the contracts, especially those who are employed in the private sector and others who are university graduates or college graduates, their contract comes to an end. The contracts come to an end at the end of December, so we have to renew them for another year. So we made a commitment for the 6 months. Obviously, in the budget in June, we'll also make available for this. So the NEP is critical. So for the foreseeable future, obviously we have had successes where in the past where people have gotten jobs from their employers and they've resigned from the NEP, and that's the whole idea. And when they go, they have the experience, they have the knowledge, because graduating from a university and going straight to work doesn't mean that you can contribute anything really. You have to gain some experience because you now have to translate theory into practice. And it's only through experience you can translate theory into practice. So what we have been doing is really having a nursery of graduates, gaining the experience, hardening them, and then sending them into the field. And they have been performing and doing very well. So that's what it is. And so we're committed to this, but recognizing the fact that the private sector may not get back to its premier position quickly enough, and for many obvious reasons. That's why we believe that the creation of 1,100 jobs is very critical. So when the private sector gets back, as time goes by, they're getting back, they'll call their staff back. So their staff will bail out from the program and go back to their original employer. And that's the whole intention. So what we're doing with the 1,100 jobs is to hold people's hands as long as they need us to hold their hands. Understand? So that their level of anxiety can be reduced. Because we have a job, there's also a job, and we still have anxieties. Because most of us, including myself, got less than what I need to fix my house from the insurance. you see, and people have to, and sometimes your take-home pay is not enough to cause you to get a loan to get a difference. Because what you got from the insurance is for half a roof. You see, so I'm dealing with things in a practical every day experiencing. I'm not up there in the sky. I live on the ground. Like I hear and I experience this thing like everybody else. And therefore you have to find ways of responding, as difficult as it is in the circumstances, to the real challenges confronting people. And what we have to work on in the country and the public service is greater efficiency. And that's where we have to issue of implementation. So, and of course the cabinet have taken the decision to make funds available to the aid bank and the government housing loan board, and I'm hoping that next week we can finalize this agreement. And it will be at 2% with a maximum of 50,000 that any one person can apply. And we will be setting aside, the crude requirements for people, and it will be for any public service and private sector. There will be no limit in terms of your income, because even those of us who get a little more than you, though most people make more money than me, but because my salary should be already $100,000 a month, right? But they give me $7,000+ and they take half of it in tax, But so we all have challenges, But I think it's important for us to work together in a positive way, sharing different ideas and experiences and taking it forward. So the NEP is ready there to stay for the foreseeable future. They love young people that we have to mold. We have to provide them with positive environments, and ensure that they can live dignified lives and so on. And I love if you go to the villages, I'm not sure whether you do travel across the country, and you see a lot of ladies working. These are a lot of single mothers, who, and the way we structure the NEP is that you work in your villages, so you don't have to come to town to work. So you stay where you work where you reside. You have the opportunity to prepare breakfast for your children, send them to school, and you have enough time to prepare lunch for them, and you'll always be home with them once they're home, so that we do not have children at their homes unattended, as is the case for many families in the country. And especially at this time, we have to ensure that we watch our children, because there are so many vulnerabilities. Okay? Yeah.
Skerrit, finally this afternoon, I think it's the final question, I think. Yeah, I want to ask you a question on Carnival Celebration 2018. I see one or two of the ministers looking at each other. I'm not sure why. Mr. Prime Minister, what is the government's position on Carnival? We're still hearing some issues about Carnival 2018. Where does your government stand on Carnival 2018?
Well, Curtis, first of all, as the Prime Minister of the country, Carnival is not on my mind.
That's all.
Not at all. I have many more pressing matters than to think of Carnival. And I would not have the time to stop to celebrate anything. But the government recognizes that there are many people in the country who want to exhale. You understand? Who want to exhale, from the stresses and the anxieties they're going through and they've gone through. So it's an opportunity for those who are revelers to exhale for a couple of days and to renew themselves. But what I've said to the Ministry of Tourism and the Festival Commission is that we're not celebrating Mass Dominic in 2018. Because Mass Dominic has a particular calendar of events, is a particular brand. So this celebration is not to go and promote outside of Dominica to say, well, Dominica, come on to do Mass in Dominica. We don't have the facilities for it. So it is ready for Dominicans and Dominican families, those who participate in Carnival, to excel. You understand? But you do not want to have a situation where you promote Mass Dominic as your brand and run the risk of damaging the brand in the process, because you do not have the hotel rooms, the the facilities. Sometimes we have water, but the water is intermittent and so forth, and you don't have a tourist coming in and you can't take a shower because something happened to the pipe. So I don't think we are ready in 2018 to celebrate the Mass Dominic brand of Carnival. And this is why the Ministry of Tourism has recognized, and they understand that they have a new program. So there are a number of activities, including the Queen Show, which is the centerpiece of the Carnival calendar, not on. So you really only have just the 2 days in terms of the Ministry of Tourism mandate. So really, they're not promoting the Mass Dominic in terms of the brand. It's an opportunity, in my respectful view, for those who partake in Carnival to excel. And those of us who don't, and we stay home and pray or go to work. But for me, last year I jumped and so on, but not this year. I don't have time to jump this year. So I am too preoccupied and sometimes even burdened with responsibilities to focus on that.
But Mr. Skerrit, while you say that there's a particular brand and we will not be promoting that kind of brand, you still want to protect the Carnival, to protect a brand that we use every year?
Right. This is why I'm saying, in an effort to protect the brand, we're not celebrating the Mass Dominic as we know it this year. So we're already having almost like a village carnival this year. You see, and it's why ending at 6 o'clock in the evening. The Mass Dominic would take you to 11 o'clock. You see what I'm saying? And you would have had the Queen Show, you have all of the Kiddies Carnival and all the other stuff associated with the protracted, extensive Carnival celebration, which starts in January. Okay, but we're not having that this year. So we're not, because the Ministry of Tourism obviously is mindful of not compromising the brand that they have worked so very hard to create. Because every year we still have a different name for Carnival, a different theme. But now we have the Mass Dominic, which has become now our brand for Carnival. And that's what the Ministry of Tourism promote. So they're mindful that they don't want to compromise or damage the brand. And therefore, this is why you have a scaled-down approach. And of course, too, we have more pressing matters and so on that to put our resources to Carnival and so on. So we're not celebrating Mass Dominic as we know it. This is really almost like a village carnival we're having.
Is that the same thing for Reunion 2018? Is that the same situation?
Yes, there'll be a massively scaled back program because every money, every dollar we can save is something we can address with it. And people have to appreciate that if you're drinking 10 beers a week, you have to drink 1 or 2. Because we have to now prioritize in a very disciplined manner. And as you know, the government has always been responsive to the needs of the people, but we've also been very responsible in the management of the financial affairs of the state, in good times and very importantly in bad times. So the same discipline we've had from the time we came into government, that will be carried out. Okay? Sure.
I have one final question. Kimani Serja, GIS. I know sometime before the hurricane, government had embarked on a comprehensive program to restore secondary roads on the island, I think $11 million. I'm just wondering where we are with this and what are we going to do to address those roads that need addressing.
That's going to continue. It's going to continue. For example, as we speak, the Town Council of Portsmouth has over $1 million for the road from Rose's home all the way to the Dr. Ammer Hospital. They will start this road hopefully by next week. We commence. They have done the drainage and the sidewalks. We were about to sign contracts for the roads in Eggleston. As a matter of fact, they were captured in the budget. So Eggleston to Girodale, and also the Castle Comfort leg but the Hurricane Maria disrupted the process. We had identified the contractors, we had contacted them, and we would have signed the contract, I believe, the very same week of Maria. But those of us who have traversed on these roads recognize that the hurricane has caused even more damage to these roads. And therefore, we have sent the CTO and his team to assess that with a view to reviewing the scope. I'm hoping that they can get back to me quickly so we can start work. I mandated that we should start work by the middle of February because, I mean, there are huge craters on these roads, huge holes. And it makes no sense patching these roads. You have to reconstruct those roads. So there are a number of roads in the community that will continue. So the program which we embarked on, you realize that the concrete roads survived. Yeah? And this is why we've been pushing concrete roads. But there's some people in Dominica, for some reason, they think that concrete roads is an inferior recognition of their high state of mind. So they prefer asphalt. You see what I'm saying? That's why some roads are delayed, because I don't want no concrete, asphalt I want. But I said, but what's the difference? You want a good road? You understand? This is why in my constituency you'll recognize that all of the roads in my constituency are concreted. Because I said to my constituents, look, if you have an asphalt road in Penville and there are potholes, how soon you believe the Ministry of Public Works is going to mobilize to come block 2 holes for you? But if you have concrete and some holes develop, we can fix by ourselves. Because all we need is cement and tarish. You understand? And the roads have worked well for us. You know, and even sections that are in asphalt will be the main road will be replacing those with concrete. And some roads we have built since 2001, and we have done no maintenance on them. We're saving the treasury money. So we need to move to that. So for example, in Horton Waven, where we started, we'll continue that. We'll be doing the Trafalgar Road there from the junction going to Horton Waven, all the way up to Papia. They will be redoing that and in concrete and 6-inch concrete. So the road program will continue, because people still need access to their homes. The power up of Mao took me to Upper Belfast area there, a terrible condition. So we'll continue those roads for the people, because it is said by some, the road to development are roads. All right, thank you. Enjoy your lunch. God bless our country. Let us do what we can for our country. Let us be positive, because the more positive we are, the greater we can work together and bring relief to the people. But recognizing that Rome was not built in a day. Things take time, because I heard the leader of the opposition made reference to the pledges we had in New York. But those of us who understand international financing, we recognize that there is a long road between pledges and delivery of those pledges. So it is not that the monies have been transmitted and deposited in our bank accounts. It's a process, and this process can be tedious. And this is why the government suggested, and we're pursuing the setting up of an agency that will be responsible for the execution of those, or many of those interventions, assisting us in overcoming some of the procurement requirements, documentation required for this, because they make a pledge, you have to now submit documents in accordance with their requirements. There's one donor that has committed some funds for a particular project, and as the Minister of Finance, and setting aside even what the line ministry has had to do, I have had to sign 8 different documents for this one project, including letters, to this government. And in one case, I was even required to submit, as the legal authority, as per the Constitution as Minister of Finance, my passport for them to have in the file that this is the person who was signed this agreement. So it is not Cadabra, as the leader of the opposition pointed out in the statement, that all these pledges and all this money and so on. The fact is, many of the interventions that the government has been engaging in are from its own resources since the hurricane. I would dare say about 95% of it. And largely financed by the CPI because there'll be no tax revenue coming to the country in any significant way. So we have to appreciate that. All of the clearing, all of the Bailey bridges reconstructed, all of the procurements of even food. We spend a lot of money on buying food to feed the nation from the treasury. You understand? For a small economy like ours. Okay? A small economy like ours. But we are pressing on. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. The concessions on building material that your government implemented a few weeks ago, will that be extended as some dollars?
I think it's a matter for there to be consultation on this, for us to think about this thing in a broader context, in a much broader context than what I have heard some people mentioning. Some people who have suggested the extension of it are looking at it from a very, 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 very narrow perspective. Very narrow perspective. And it is something that the government will determine at the appropriate time. And I do not want to prejudice the views of others by expressing my views now. But at the appropriate time, I shall express my views to the public on this matter. But all I'm saying to people is that when you're discussing things like that, it cannot be seen from a narrow perspective. It must be broad. And from where I sit, or where I stand, it is certainly much broader than what I've heard, by far. There are a lot of implications for what has been suggested. So sometimes, we think we might be gaining something by getting that. But we also have to find out what is the country losing or intend to lose from this. And what the country is losing, is it bigger than what I'm getting? Because what the country is losing, the country might be in a better position to help you in a much bigger way than what you're getting. You understand? So this is why I tell people sometimes, yes, we in the public, we may have a suggestion, which is fine. But sometimes we're not looking at it from a broader perspective. And to the perspective which the government itself has to treat this thing. Okay? But it is not as straightforward as people think it is. And so I could say a lot about it, but I don't want to prejudice the debate that's taking place, which is important. We must all share our views as narrow as they are. When you put all together, we get a bigger picture. And I don't want to prejudice the views for people who say, well, Skerrit said that's why I'm saying anything more. You understand? Let's have the debate on all sectors, all issues, all policies, policy recommendations and so forth, and then we can sift them, see what's good, see what's practical, and advance those we think that are good and practical. And leave those that are not practical on the side for the time being. If the time comes when they can be viewed as being practical, then we can implement them. Is that a fair enough response? What are your views then?
I'll be asking another question. About the police, I'll be asking you that question tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
The police. Yeah.
On a one-on-one interview?
Everybody can hear.
You want to ask me? Oh. All right, but you see, when the dean of the media call detain the prime minister, I must be detained, I mean, you see, I always have respect of our position, and the man is the dean and so forth. Though the only press conference he is treated with respect is my press conference, When he goes to other people's press conferences, they heckle him, they disrespect him, they insult him publicly. But, we have to respect. I don't always agree with his line of questioning. I don't agree with sometimes his newscasts. Sometimes he interprets what I say how he wants to interpret it, which is sometimes contrary to what I say. What I say. I mean, let's play what I said, my brother, man. Instead of reporting, let's play what I say. Let's play the voice. Thank you. Take it easy.